I'm going to talk about the characters in terms of how they're strong for people who are entering the game. I will make some caveats and kind of mention like what I would recommend if I would recommend even playing the character really long term. But like in terms of how well they'll scale like down the line. But having said that, yeah, so beginning with this here little tier list. So Bishop is just a really strong character in general. She's strong for all tiers essentially. She's very generalistic, especially with the buffs that she's been given recently, where she kind of just has a difficult time like fucking up really, because she has 3 dashes, right? You have 3 dashes, and then you have this like huge punch that does a bunch of damage, knocks people back, and her damage, like her primary fire isn't insane, but the damage from the punch is really nutty. So I think Bishop is like pretty firmly S tier fucking nuke player, to be honest. Punch you in the face, her damage is okay, and it's really easy to survive on her and escape and res your team. So Bishop really good. For Brall though, Brall is going to get a much worse rating. Brall is very difficult to like get okay value on, or not get okay value on, but it's difficult to kind of master, right? And he has like so much raw capability and there's so much you can do on him, but to really unlock a lot of it, you have to get like very mechanically good at him, I would say. Having said that, the like base level of skill that you're required to get a lot of value is still really low. So he has a very low skill floor, or very high skill floor, and high skill ceiling also. But I think Brall is the kind of character that's going to get nerfed just because he's going to be frustrating for people to play against. So because of all the stuff together and just like how clunky he is to like learn and get used to, I would put Brall like kind of lower here on this category. Moving on from this, Celeste. Celeste is going to get a pretty solid level, I would say. She's not too punishing, to be honest, and she can get a lot of value just in general, right? Like she has her ice spears to throw out, she has some solid damage, not crazy damage. She has a big AoE ultimate that'll get a lot of value in lower tiers. But most importantly, she's a character that will scale really well in the game, because she's viable and powerful at high levels too. So Celeste, I would say I'd put her like towards an A, to be honest. Maybe even, yeah, more like an A. She's not like insanely easy to get value on, compared to a character, you know, some other characters maybe like Bishop, where you just punch something in the face, right? There's a lot more like brain power related stuff that you should be doing on Celeste. For Bunny, Elluna is a very, very friendly character for beginner players. She isn't really that good though, so it's a little bit awkward to recommend her. But she's not like, because she's not strong, but because she's stronger at lower tiers, because people have a hard time finishing her when she's like picking up whiffs and stuff like that. Like if I was putting her in like a high list tier, like a high gameplay tier list, I would put her maybe at like a C. Like she's just not really popping off that well, or maybe even D. But in terms of like a beginner playlist, a tier list, in terms of like what kind of value you get in the character and how valuable it is to pick it up and enjoy it, I'll put her at like a B, because she can frag still. She doesn't quite have like, the like the mercy problem in Overwatch. She just can't do anything by herself. All right, Felix. Felix is a very strong character, just numerically. So you'll get a lot of value just from like just existing, to be honest. You just ult an enemy team, you apply large AoE damage, and it's like you're just giga chilling, to be honest. Like I said, the thing about that is like he's still strong at high ranks. I think he'll also get nerfed down like Brall will, but I think there's some skill sets you can learn from him that are better than something like Brall, because numerically he's strong, but he still requires like kind of using your brain a little bit to engage in. And he can kind of teach you some things about the game as you're playing, while he's also like a pretty reliable character. So I'd put him at A. Ghost is probably a really high tier pick for this kind of stuff. Ghost has like very solid team potential, very solid like raw damage output. He's a really strong character in terms of the high tier gameplay, but he's also simple, right? You just like beam people down from range. You like use your hard CC around chokes and in corners, and when people show up, and you can stun people off of you and just dash off, right? There's some nuance to get out of his kit, but he's a pretty simple character all in all, and you get a lot of value on him, just shooting people. So that, with the fact that he scales really well, up to being like a viable character for the high tier play. So it's like you improve as a player. I think Ghost is a really good character in general. Gunner. Hudson. Do I think Hudson is a character that I would like recommend, you know, pump in a lot of value into starting off on? Not really. He's definitely going to be a character that punishes newer players, so you'll get raw value, but I think he's going to teach you some bad habits, and it's just kind of pigeonholing yourself into like an awkward angle of what you're trying to invest in and get value out of. And he's also just not really going to be, like I said, you'll get some value out of him, but he's not like insane when it comes to like even the value you'll get on him on a lower tier, just because he's so vulnerable to like large AoEs, right? And just CCs being tossed on top of your head and stuff like that, and so it's awkward, and it's not like he's quite like Bastion is in Overwatch, or was, you know. He's like that, right? But then he also just has these like very high powerful CC in the game that he's going to be quite vulnerable to, getting clicked on. So as you get higher up the tiers, he's going to get worse, and you're going to probably not have learned as much as you should have in some ways. So and the fact that he's not that amazing in the first place, I'd put him pretty low, like D tier. For Jhin is not really an amazing character, to be honest, in the high tiers, and he's not really super crazy in the low tiers either. He can be a fun character to like experiment with and play and stuff like that, but he's not insane, and he's not like just going to be blowing any minds in terms of what it's teaching you as a new player, or like the raw value you're getting on it as a low player, like a new player. He's kind of like Bunny, where there's stuff you can do with him. He gets value, but it's not as reliable, and it's not as easy to learn in the game as it is on a character like Ghost, for example, or Bishop. He's much less forgiving because he's so hard engage based, comparable to a character like Felix that's like very similar, but Felix gets a lot more just like AoE value and raw value and stuff like that. So maybe even, he's honestly even like C tier. Probably just really not the way to go. Joule. So Joule is a really strong, high potential character. People think she's not that great sometimes at high tier, but I think she's quite powerful. She has a lot of value she can provide to a team. She can do a lot of AoE damage. She can do a lot of knockback, a lot of stunning up of people. There's just a lot that you can do on her, and there's a lot that she can provide to a team. So it means she's going to continue being like pretty valuable in terms of like high tier gameplay, right? Which is cool as you scale up, but she's difficult to master in lower tier values. She has like some combos you have to learn. There's just like more flexibility to the gameplay you have to develop compared to a character like Ghost or Bishop, right? So she scales really well. She's fun, but she's not like insanely hard to play, but she's not super easy either. So we're gonna put her in like B. So going from this, we're going to move on to Kingpin. I think Kingpin is like a pretty solid choice for a lot of reasons. I think he teaches you a lot of good things. I think it's pretty easy to get solid value out of him, in terms of just like playing for hooks and stuff like that. You will get punished really hard for like missing an engage into trying to play for engages and stuff like that. So that's something to like be able to learn from, right? Like you have a steady way that you can get into the game, a way that you can play it and develop increased skill potential on it. But then there has more to the kit in terms of what you can learn and what you have to like start practicing to be able to get a lot of value. And so, you know, that with Kingpin becoming quite a powerful character when you get certain powers that are something that's accessible a lot more at like higher tiers of the gameplay. I'm gonna put him also in like A tier. Myth is just like honestly straight into S tier. She just like does so much, you know. She's very consistent, very reliable, very easy to escape with. You can't get punished very much for using her incorrectly. And she just has like the ability to just sit there and poke people from range and just hard damage them. And yet, you know, there's so much to be learned on the character. In excess, it's just pretty easy to get there in the first place. But she's also a really easy character, or a really good character at high tiers. So you're always going to scale up with her, and you're getting a lot of value from playing her as a character. And if you learn Myth, it'll help you with characters like Shrike, Ghost, some of these other things, you know. So there's a lot of value to be had in learning a character like Myth. So we're popping her up at S. For Oathbreaker though, for Oath, like even though he's really, really strong, he is just like extremely mechanically complex. And you don't get nearly as much value as you should until you understand how those things work, but like keep doing them consistently. So as much as he scales really well, and he's such a good character, and there's so much potential with the character in terms of what it teaches you and how it allows you to play the game in an entirely different way, but just with like mechanical complexity and how long it takes to get that, he's just not a good character to like start the game with. Like he's only getting as high of a C just because of the fact that he is a good long-term pick of a character, and like he'll teach you important things. So for Shiv, I'm also going to be putting somewhere in a similar category to Felix. She's not nearly as like mechanically as intensive or punishing as she really seems, to be honest. And she's quite a powerful character, and I think she's going to be like not really prone to getting giga nerfed in comparison to characters like Felix or Brall, just because she feels a little bit more like, wow, this cool high skill mechanical character, so therefore she must be like fair, right? Whereas the other characters like Brall and Felix, I don't really feel like that much. So she's not gonna get nerfed as much. She's still strong. So for Shiv, we're putting her up at A also. Like I said, not quite as easy to access maybe as a character like Felix, but he makes it up for it in other ways. For Shrike, I'm popping Shrike in like B tier just because she's so easy to access for new players and stuff like that. But she just doesn't scale well in terms of gameplay. You will be betrayed playing this character as you get higher up the game. You'll get like lots and lots of free value. You get to pop off and have lots of fun. Everything will be happy, but just why play Shrike when you could do Myth? Really the question, you know. So I don't know. I think she's bait, to be honest, for a new player. I think she's... No, I mean, like, whatever. Like, you can learn the character a little bit. You can learn the game off her a little bit. Just don't, like, get too attached and try and stick with her. Void. I think Void is not a good starting character at all. I really like the character, and he's powerful with, like, super high potential stuff. But he's just not, like, friendly for the game, or friendly for a new player, like, at all. Very punishing because of his lack of mobility. You miss your stun, you don't kill anybody. Like, it's just not really something that you want a new player to be like trying to learn the game on in the first place. So down at D. He has a lot of potential though, but it's just like he's just not who you should start off in the first place. It's like you're playing an entirely different game when you're playing Void. For Zeph I think is not as difficult as people like to think he is. I think he has a lot of mechanical value. I think he like gives a bunch of free capability playing Zeph. He's strong too in high tiers, and he gets a lot of value from stuff that you can learn that's valuable later on. It'll teach you a lot about the game. He will continue to be good, and he's fun to play, and he's not that mechanically like hard to say, like hard to play, like I said. So you'll get a lot of value out of playing this character as a beginner. So yep, there's my beginners tier list here, guys, of what characters I'd recommend playing / how good they are. Yep.